I was just going to focus mainly on your childhood.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we could go on for an hour and have you describe all the way through college and meeting Rita and children and your best memories of your marriage. But I think if we just focus on the early days.
If I start mumbling, tell me, because I tend to.
Okay. All right, so tell me where you were born.
In London.
In London.
Yeah.
At home?
I haven't a clue, I imagine so. Your mother said she was born at, so I guess I was born at home.
Okay. All right. And what was the birth date?
23rd of September 1934.
1934.
Yeah.
All right. And how old were your sisters then?
Well, Tina was 5 years older than me, Monica was 5 years older than her, and Mary was 5 years older than her, roughly speaking.
All righty.
Give or take a birthday.
And who were you named after?
Probably after my grandfather, because he was Patrick.
Okay.
And his father was Patrick. And his father was Patrick. So I'd say it was after that.
All right. Any middle names?
Pardon?
Did you have a middle name?
Joseph.
Joseph.
Which is a standard
Irish.
Standard Irish thing, yeah.
Okay.
Patrick Joseph.
All right.
EJ.
Did you have a nickname?
I'm not telling you.
Oh, really? Okay then.
Your mom, I won't tell you what your mom did. She was very cruel when she was small.
And the mother called him a bad name.
I won't tell you to this day. You have to be our friend. I passed on people.
I see.
Now, what's your earliest memory?
What?
What's your earliest memory?
I have a vague memory of going on holiday with Mary before the war to my aunt's, some convent. Very vague. I have memories of showing off when priests or visitors would come into the house. I would stand on my head.
On your head?
In the chair, yes. And I can remember sitting by the fireplace listening to the old people talking and not knowing, having a clue what they were talking about. I can still see that fireplace with the carvings around it.
On Palmer's Green?
In Bayswater.
Bayswater.
Bayswater. I can remember hiding Father Reardon's hat. I can remember your mum being sent to her room and howling.
Howling?
Howling behind the door. Yeah, I didn't know what she'd done.
She always told me she'd always pull on your curls.
She did, yeah.
Because you were so cute and she had to just yank on them.
Yeah. Okay.
What else do you remember about your sisters?
Well, Mary used to bath me, I remember that. And the bath was downstairs on the return. And it was a big metal bath. And a big copper boiler in the corner, which was gas operated. You had to put coins in to get the heat up. And we shared that bath with the other apartments. And I remember once swallowing the bullseye or something and beginning to choke, so she turned me upside down and she shook me and banged me on the back.
And she saved your life?
Yes, yeah. And downstairs, the pram was held downstairs in the hallway, at the entrance hallway. And I'd be taken down there and put into the pram and walked out by my mother to the Kensington Gardens. You remember Kensington Gardens? You ever been there? Yeah, out to Kensington Gardens was a favourite walk. And I was and then you walk along and there was a big dairy compound where they kept all the horses and we go to the park and she'd make scones and we'd have a tea party out there. And she'd rent a deck chair and a man would come round. We'd do for trees in the park. Very nice.
And how old would you have been? Like 5 or 6?
5, 6, or I don't know.
All right. Now, when did you move to Palmer's Green?
After the bombing started in early 1941, a lot of people had moved out.
Okay.
And we were living near Paddington Station, so there was a lot of bombers coming down right around there, and the railway lines passed near us.
Okay.
So the Germans could see the railway lines at night, so they would bomb all around there. So actually Aunt Agnes was living out in Palmer's Green, and she said that there were houses vacant around there, people had moved away, and we should move out there, so we did. That was how we came out in Palmer's Green.
And were there many bombs dropping there at all then?
All over the place. So, well, the nearest one was as far as the corner of Little Park, down the road from us, you know, about 100 yards away. And there was a house there, and when you walk by it, on the first floor, the man had a big aviary in his window, full of birds, exotic birds, and that got hit.
Oh. They were gone.
And that was the closest one to us while we were living there.
Okay.
There were other ones there from the war when they came back raiding, fell around the back. Morris house was there, but that was the next closest when I was there. And then about 200 yards away they dropped a landmine. I remember we went out there the following morning and the entire street had been flattened.
Right.
Off.
And at night you had to keep the windows, the drapes shut?
Well, all the windows, yeah, you had drapes, and then all the windows were taped. So if the blast broke the windows, the idea was that the tape would
it would
tape
shatter.
The glass. Yeah, shattering too much.
They still do that in Texas for the hurricanes. Tape the windows whenever it's coming.
Yeah.
What else do you remember about the bombs in the war?
Well, you'd hear the sirens go off in the evening. The Germans didn't have heavy bombers, so they didn't come over in a mass for a short raid like the RAF used to do. They would come over overnight doing a relay from France. So you'd hear the sirens go off in the evening, and then you hear people going into the shelters, and then everything would be dead quiet, and you'd be listening.
And did you go to the shelters, or did you?
We didn't go to the shelters, no, because my father was convinced that if the house was hit, it would be ransacked, or damaged to be ransacked, and that happened. People were looting, and there was a shelter just down the road from us. And they weren't necessarily very safe because the early shelters were quite skimpily built with concrete roofs. And if they had near bomb, the water would be blown out and the roof would come down and kill the people inside. And that happened. But it would be very quiet. And then in the far distance you'd hear a gun go off. And the anti-aircraft guns had a very hollow sound when they exploded. It was like they're knocking the door of heaven, you know. And then the guns would start coming closer and closer, and the noise would start building up until eventually the guns were around, and then the bombs would start falling. If they were aiming for you, if they were aiming down to the city, it'd be further away, but then you get stray ones. You know?
And how old were you at this time?
In 1940, when they started, I would be coming up to 6. Coming up to 6, yeah.
And when did they stop bombing?
After we moved to Palmer's Green, they stopped about April of 41, I think.
Okay.
And I think we moved out about March. And they started, so then we were, in Palmer's Green, we were living up in the higher ground. And so when there were raids in April of the war, you would see the fire down on the horizon, you know, in the city, in London.
Now, did they send you out? Because Mum seems to talk about, she remembers holding your hand and being put on a train to go out to...
Yeah, that's when we were evacuated in 1939.
1939.
Yeah. We were all sent out. Monica and Tina and myself were sent out to Acton Bernal.
Okay.
We went out by coach.
Which is train?
In buses.
Oh, buses.
In buses.
Okay.
In buses. And with our, you had little gas masks. And with the gas masks, we had to get them back after the war, unfortunately. And they came apart after you could take them apart and see what was inside. And never used them. But I think we had to carry them with us when we went out there.
Oh, gosh.
So we arrived out there. It was a good long drive. It took all day. And apparently I howled. And we arrived there and we had to sit on the lawn facing this big old house, beautiful old house, before we were let in. And then we were let in, and I was sleeping in this room, away from the girls. But anyway, I howled, so they had to sleep with me, which they didn't like.
Well, you were young. You were a little guy. You were still about 5 years old?
Yeah, I guess so. Six. And it was nice. It was a nice place.
And how long did you stay there?
I was there until Christmas, when the nuns decided there were about half a dozen little boys. We had been they had a baby school there next to the convent, which I attended.
What's a baby school?
Well, it's like a primary school. Small children go there.
Okay.
No, and we used to go. All I remember about it, I don't remember any schooling there. I must have schooling. And I remember the chapel. I remember the breakfast room, the big dining room where we were fed, and the big plates of white bread. And I remember the walks. There was a hill behind or a ridge behind the house. We were up to there was forest traps there, and in the base of the trees there were holes full of water, which were the soldiers where the witches came and brewed their soup.
That's terrible. Oh my God.
And the other way, we went out along a country lane, and that used to fascinate me because there were all the telegraph poles going along the road with the wires, and the wires would sing.
Really?
Yes. I don't know whether it was because they were being used or the wind was singing in the wires, but they would sing. And somewhere along there was an aerodrome because there were fighter planes parked. And I have one memory. We were out, a group of us, on the lawn, having a class, I guess. There was a young man, and the nun, I offered the nun a chair. There was a chair there, so I offered her the chair. And when she went to sit down, I pulled it away.
And how old were you when you did this? I'm sure you were 6. You were quite the little man. I'm sure she was quite happy with you.
So that man ended up in Navan, outside Dublin. I met her many years later.
Really?
Yeah.
And did she remember you?
Oh yeah.
I bet she did. She ended up on her boat.
But anyway, the nuns decided they couldn't handle little boys, so they sent us all back.
So how many months had you been away from your mother?
Probably about 4 months.
4 months. And the girls stayed there for
The girls stayed there for the rest of the war.
Rest of the war.
I think they may have come back for holidays late in the war when things quietened down, but I think your mum said they were kept up there.
So you stayed with your parents for the rest of the war?
Yeah.
Going to school?
Yeah, I went to, we moved out to Palmer's Green, I went to the local convent school, and all I remember there was a very bad-tempered young nun, and then I would move to, there was a school, a Protestant school I guess, run by Miss Harper. It was a very good school, primary school, which at that stage was in Palmer's Green temporarily. And I went up there for one term, and then we would move back to the original school in Winchmore Hill. And it was a small school, probably around 30 or 40 boys, but she with a high standard, and it was a nice school, well run. So we went there till the end of the war.
Okay.
And we used to play back. We used to play after school. We were all the houses there. They were designed so that there was you didn't put your bins out the front of the house, and tradesmen didn't come in the front of the house. They came in through the back alley. There was a long back alley.
I remember that alley.
Yeah, and so all the houses all the way down from Winchmore Hill, there were these back alleys were racing through the streets. So we used to play cowboys and Indians all the way through there.
Cowboys and Indians. I was going to ask what were some of your favorite games as a boy.
Yeah.
Cowboys and Indians. Did you ever play like soldier?
No, it was always cowboys and Indians. Sometimes we went up through the park. I think we used to play football up there because there was a place you could buy lemonade up by the lake in the park. And there was an aviary up there.
Which park was this?
Up in Southgate.
Okay.
What do they call it? There was a name for it. Anyway, we used to go up there. come through
Interesting.
there. Yeah.
Interesting.
So I think I got the bus to school, or sometimes I walked no, I get the bus to school, but and walk up to the school. But coming home, we just played through. Took our time.
Yeah. Did you have pets?
No, Tina had pets. When Mary married, she and found this wild rabbit by the road, and that was our first. Oh, my father had pets. He had pet canaries and pet budgerigars.
Okay. When you were children, did you have pets around the house?
No.
Which your father had before he was married.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the other thing I remember too was my father had. We didn't have electricity in that flat in Bayswater at first. It was just gaslight, and I think it was a solid fuel stove. But then up to that point, when he had a radio, he had a do-it-yourself kit. It was like, I think cat's whiskers they call them. You had to turn dials and get things wires together. And he had earphones.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So then when they got electricity in, he had a radio, but the radio was not on the electric light circuit. Somehow he had a big battery, which he had to get charged. It was a big glass battery, full of whatever. Like it was like a car battery, which you had to go and get recharged from time to time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
As a family, did you sit around and listen to the radio?
When we had the radio, we would listen to the radio. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, away from the war, you would sit around as a family and listen to the radio, listen to the radio, or the news, or you could turn the dials, and there was a short wave, a long wave, and medium wave. Particularly on the short wave, you could turn the dials and they get to remote places, like Germany or Hilversum, wherever Hilversum. I never found out where Hilversum was.
And all this time, your father was working as a secretary?
He worked in the GRA, in the racing. He went there apparently into the publicity, and then he was moved to the racing section. And I have it all written down. And then when the war came, the racing manager went off to war with the promise that when he came back he would get his job back. So my father took over his job, so he became racing manager during the war. So when the war ended then, the other guy came back, so my father was made assistant racing manager. But he was a judge, he used to decide who won the race.
Oh. That's probably quite, because greyhound racing was quite... It
was quite an industry at the time, there was a lot of cookery going on around us.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
As there is probably today still.
Yeah.
Now, as far as your mum, she stayed home.
She stayed at home.
Cooking.
Cleaning. Mondays was longer day. And in Palmer's Green we had a big sink. And there was a washing board, which you rubbed up and down to clean the dirt out. And then there was a boiler for boiling the clothes. But Monday was longer day, all round. Everybody had a Monday. If the weather was right, the laundry went out on the washing line.
Very good. And what was the favorite food she made for you?
Oh.
Out of all the food she made.
So I can't remember. I know your mama said the sausages, but very. I know I didn't like rice pudding. I didn't like fat on my meat. I wasn't particularly partial to apples. I didn't like stewed apples. Apart from that, everything was nice.
A lot of potatoes and...
Yeah, mince and... We always had roast on a Sunday.
Roast
on a Sunday. She was very good at cementing relations with the people in the dairy. And if you didn't cement relations with the person in the dairy or the butcher, she would move on to somewhere else where she could build up a relationship. And we always had.
All right.
Always had food, nice food. And she was a good cook. That was another thing. When we were in Bayswater, she would take me to the local gas light place.
Mm-hmm.
We had a showroom there, and they would they have cooking instruction periods, so we go there and we get to sample the food afterwards.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, did you do anything with your father? As far as, father-son type?
No, he gardened, so I'd help him with the garden.
Okay.
No. We were lucky, there was Mike, the guy who had the garden, the house before, was a rose fancier. And he had a load of topsoil brought in. So we had good topsoil.
Good soil.
And we had some of his roses were still there. And my father was a keen gardener, so he put down vegetables, and a few vegetables, but fruit bushes mainly, and apple trees.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't the bushes like here, but we had a lot of
Well, I always remember there was the gooseberry, and there were currants, and there was
currants.
a beautiful rosemary plant. The herb
I
rosemary.
don't remember that.
That was my childhood memory.
Yeah.
It had been there a long time. I remember a very thick base.
Mm.
But I do remember the apples.
Mm.
So that was a great. What else was I going to ask you? Did you have a favorite toy?
There wasn't much in the way of toys. Mary said that most of the toys we had came from my uncle Paddy, who worked in Mooney's was a pub, and they had a chain of pubs around, and he worked in the one in the city. And there was a toy warehouse near there, and I think that's where the toys came from.
All right.
Because I had once worked there before we moved out of Bayswater, and it was like an Adam's cave. We went to there, fantastic toys everywhere.
I'm sure.
And I remember leaving there in tears, empty-handed. It was before Christmas. I got some toy for Christmas. I don't know what it was. But no, we didn't have much in the way of toys. I remember in Bayswater this huge toy car appearing. Where it ever came from, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it was driven by paraffin or how it worked.
And it was yours, for you?
It wasn't mine. It disappeared again.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Oh.
But I had a teddy.
Is that one that's still in that picture today?
That one in the picture, yes. I don't know what happened to that teddy.
Aww.
Yeah. And I had two little toy metal cars, about that big.
Mm-hmm.
They came from somewhere. And there were the seven dwarfs. They were little rubber dwarfs. That squeaked.
Like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs?
Yeah, no, we had Snow White as well, but she was a toothbrush holder.
Oh my!
And then my Uncle John, who was on the buses, he gave me a miniature ticket holder. And I collect tickets, and he would give me tickets, and so I had a whole set of tickets.
Did you ever do any sort of dress-up games? Were you ever able to have a costume of any sort, or
No,
did you do that?
no, never did that. No. But toys, no, we didn't have toys.
And did you did you sleep in your own bed, or did you share a bed with a sister? Or?
No, I slept in a camp bed.
In a camp bed?
A camp bed. From an early age, I know when I was put into it. In my parents' room.
Okay.
Right up until I was about 12, I suppose.
So the girls had a different room, and you slept in with your parents.
And during the war, that little camp bed would go down. We would go down to the entrance hall and sleep down there.
All of you?
Well, just myself and my parents.
Okay, because the girls were gone.
The girls were gone. That little camp bed came down with me.
Okay. Interesting.
And they were filled up.
Yeah, and be put away.
Put away.
And your parents had the same sort of, were they cots? Your parents?
No, I think they spent the whole night praying.
Oh.
God bless them.
Oh.
They had a big statue of the Sacred Heart, which would come down with us. With a candle in front of it.
That's a hard time. It's a hard way to spend quite a couple of years.
So I remember one night during a raid, I woke up. I sleep like a log. The things don't wake me now. But I woke up I think it must be when the Birdman got hit because it was very close to the explosion.
Mm-hmm.
And when I opened my eyes, I saw the shockwave going up the wall.
Really?
Above my head, yeah. Like you shake a blanket, you know.
Yeah.
My parents were over there praying, so I went back to sleep again.
Because Mum has described once before hearing these bombs, what they call them, doodle bugs or something like that, where they tick, 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 and then suddenly when you heard it stop, you knew it was going to fall.
Yeah.
I don't remember what they were called, but...
They were doodle bugs. They were the first,
Yeah.
the first of the
V2.
bombs or whatever they
V2s.
call them.
V2?
Pardon?
Was it called the V2 or
No,
something?
there was a V1.
V1.
It was a V1, the doodle bugs. And they had little motors, and when the motor cut out, they would fall and explode.
That would be very
Um,
nerve-wracking.
I remember when I was at school one day, we were looking out the window and seeing one over the far side of the valley going along,
Mm-hmm.
and you could see the little light and then where it stopped, the engine. But one came very close to us there. I was myself and my mother, and one of the girls, I didn't know which of the girls it was, maybe it was Monica, and we dived under the stairs. Not too much for you. But you heard the engine cut out, and then you could hear it go chuck, 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 it went over your head, you know?
Mm.
Wow.
It exploded up the hill.
Mm.
But the V2s were the rockets.
Okay.
And I was alone with my father one night, it must be in about the summer of 1940, when they were flying these things over. And there was a little railway line passed through Palmer's Green, going out to Southgate and Enfield. And it was also used by goods trains, but it was mainly a passenger train line. I was sitting there doing my homework, and suddenly there was the most almighty explosion. And you could hear all the rubble and things falling on the roof. And it landed actually right in the middle of this little railway line. It was a bullseye, you know? They couldn't have done it better.
Mm.
But they were the only one that came near us.
Great. How about, I remember another thing Mum used to talk about was the pollution
The what?
and the fog. The fog
Oh yeah.
due to the pollution. And something about losing you, I think. Wasn't there once?
I was at Ealing at that stage. It was, maybe it was 45. There was a very bad fog. They had these pea supers, and you couldn't see across. So you wouldn't see that pole there, you know,
Really?
10 feet away from you. And I was at school, and this fog came down, and I set off to go home. And it was very slow. We stopped about 3 miles along the road for a cup of tea. You know, maybe 3 or 4 of us in the bus with the driver and the conductor. In the end, they got us back to Palmer's Green with the conductor walking in front of the bus.
Really?
Yeah. Mm.
Trying to make sure nothing was out there. For
Yeah,
that oh.
yeah. He was still on the road. He wasn't off the road, you know.
And your parents were wondering where you were.
Oh yeah, they were out searching, you know. Well, they knew the bus hadn't got back. Of course, there were no phones and
Mm-hmm.
no mobiles.
And how old were you at the time then?
Probably about 11 or 12.
11 or 12.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
quite an adventure.
I bet that was.
Mm.
Now, how did they discipline you? I'm sure you were never bad.
Well, the only time my father lost his temper with me was when I made a bow and arrow. And there were 2 little girls. The little girl lived next door to me, and there's another little girl across the road. And my father saw the bow and arrow, and he said, "No, that's dangerous," and he put them away. He said, "You shouldn't play with that." And of course I took the bow and arrow out and played with it.
Cowboys and Indians.
Uh,
Cowboys and Indians.
and I fired the arrow right into this little girl's eye, the little girl across the road.
You did?
Yeah, so that was the one time he beat me. But my mother and my sister, stop it. So he very nicely came outside. I was into my room, you know, but he came up and apologised. So all was okay.
Didn't hurt it.
It was the one that he lost his rag completely.
How badly was she hurt?
I don't know. She wore glasses after that, I know.
Oh dear.
But she still had 2 eyes. We never played again together.
I bet.
Oh my gosh.
Those things happen.
But that was not a good. I was probably about, I don't know what age I was. It was during the war. Because the little girl next door to me moved away after that. I don't know, that was the one time. But at the school then, the system of disciplining there was that they had school rules. And they had prefects. So the older boys, the boys in the sixth form were prefects.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were. And you had to obey the school rules. So, and the prefects kept order. So if you broke a school rule, usually you had to write out the school rule maybe 50 times or 100 times, whatever took their fancy,
Mm-hmm.
which is a pain because you spent your weekend.
I will not.
Yeah. But sometimes they would send you to the housemaster, and then you left, you got beaten, you know, so you got 3 of the best. And I learned very quickly because I had a very nice housemaster, and the other boy said I was his pet. So I started avoiding him. So he called me every one day. He said, "No, why are you avoiding this?" I said, "Well, the other boy said, I know your pet." Oh, he said, "That's all right. I understand." But anyway, eventually I got beaten. You had to get beaten at some stage.
At some stage.
Otherwise, there's something wrong with you, you know. So I got beaten eventually, and everything was fine.
It was a paddling, I'm assuming.
They had canes about that long, and they would take out, go wang, wang, wang. You had to bend over, you know. You're the best.
So one thing I meant to ask you was, of all the things that you've learned from your parents, what do you feel was the most valuable?
The things they told me.
Or you could have learned anything, not necessarily
Yeah,
they told you.
I know my father used to say, as I got older, that the most important thing was your health.
Mm-hmm.
And he was right in that. He sometimes came out with this remark, "Spare the rod, spoil the child." I used to think like he had 2 heads, you know. And sometimes he would say it was a waste of money educating girls because they went off and got married. And of course, all his 3 daughters went to college, you know.
Of course. Got very well educated, all of them.
Yeah. But they weren't ones for giving out advice. And my mother was, I remember my mother saying to me, never ever discuss anything in the family outside of the home. And I will say that was very much, I think that was very much because my father was in the RIC, and I say she was stamping on that. She never said so.
That was the Irish...
The Irish police.
Police. Okay.
She never said that was the
about
reason,
that.
but she just said never ever discuss anything outside the home. And funny enough, I have a book upstairs written by a guy who came from the other side. He was his background was in the Irish Republican terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
One of his grandfathers, and he came up and he had a phrase for it. He grew up in a bubble, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I think we grew up in a bubble too. So we never associate with Irish people, very few. And well, that was the other thing I know about my mother. They had this Sire Convent in Bayswater, which was a school for young ladies. Also designed there. Also, I think they were supposed to convert the Jews, but now they're into ecumenical things. But anyway, she went round to the nuns, the Reverend Mother, and talked to her and persuaded her to have the girls in at a reasonable price, you know.
So that's where the girls went when they
That's
were
where the
young.
girls went, yeah. And the local Irish women gave out to my mother, I gather. I heard for sending not sending the girls to the local council school, but but my mother had other ideas. She had other ideas for all of us.
Well, that's good though. That's good. Having your... And so then by the time you got into older, by the time you were getting 13, 14, 15, 16, where did you go to school?
I went to Benedictines in Ealing.
Okay.
Yeah. So that again, I think Aunt Ag who lived across the road, she had strong ideas on what the schools were like.
Okay.
And Prior Park, which was Christian Brothers, somewhere up in the West Country, was considered, and that was a very rough school. The brothers were very rough. And other schools around the Jesuits and the boys were rough.
So this wasn't a boarding school, you lived
No, it
in
was
a...
a day school. The Benedictines they're very old order.
Mm-hmm.
Came back to 600, I think, in Italy. They have a long tradition. The monks were very much into plain chant. So I always regarded as a school where there was a lot of music going on.
Mm-hmm. Did you do anything musical yourself? Mm-hmm. Were you ever into playing?
I wasn't very. We had a piano, but I never set a finger to it until Mary decided I should have lessons. Oh. So I think I had lessons. I may have had lessons in Palmer Green, I can't remember now. But I started having lessons when I went to Ealing, and she paid for them. Apparently.
Because she was how much older than you?
Oh, she's 15 years.
15 years older than you.
Yeah. My big sister. She was very good to me all through the years.
She was?
Really once fell out. That's a different story.
We're not going to talk about that today. All right, we'll stop now.
Yeah.
We'll have to do this again another time and find out more from there on.
No, I get to write it all down.
Yes?
Yeah, because I'll print out for you what I've done in my father and my grandfather. It's just a rough sketch, a timeline.
That'd be wonderful.
I'm going to write that out and I'm going to start my own one.
There you go. Your children would love that.
Yeah.
Because it's not till you're like my age, you're like, I wish I had asked, my dad these things.
Because I realised now all the questions I didn't ask. I could have asked.
Mm-hmm.
Or things I did know, I didn't put down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There you go.
It's all lost.
Thank you. So we don't know who wrote this.
We don't know who?
We don't know who wrote this, though.
I think it's your mother.
I mean, it looks like my mother's writing, but I don't know where she would have learned this.
It's your mother's handwriting.
That looks like my mom's handwriting. Oh, that was Adkerson. I had a lot of Adkerson I looked up.
You're missing a page there. Yeah.
Oh, that one's missing? Uh-oh. Who knows?
Maybe
Might close the door for the radio.
Okay.
No offense.
What goes it off?
No offense. We're just going to close the doors because of the radio.
So it was the Owen Whelan married Bridget Burns. That's the one you're talking about. Bridget Burns, you were talking about that.
No.
No, that wasn't the Burns you were talking about?
I need my glasses to see that.
Uh-oh. Go get your glasses then. Time ago, by the way. That Patrick Whelan. That Patrick married a Burns. I put a Burns and then a Maria Whelan, and he had all his children with Maria Whelan.
Yeah.
And Maria Whelan was a child of Owen and Bridget Burns. Huh. Thought that was interesting.
The one I want to find out is Burns.
Who that Burns is there.
And I think that may be a mistake for Kearns.
Oh, really?
I've looked for Burns and I can't find Burns.
Huh.
But I do find Kearns. He came back in '79 from India. And in '82, there's a marriage listing for Patrick Conley. And one of the people included is Catherine Kearns. And Kearns are one of the families in that township. And she died about the same time.
Okay.
But she was 60 years old,
Okay.
and he was only 40. So it looks like it may have been an arranged deal the way he could get the land.
Okay. What's interesting is your father's father, which is this Patrick, who's from 1841 to 1924. He's the one who's in India.
He was one who was in India
for 20 years, and then came back here. And it looks like it might not be Burns; it might be
I think it may be Kearns.
Kearns. Then he married Maria Whelan.
She was also a neighbour.
Okay. According to I don't know where all this came from, but Patrick went to India, was a good shot. I have that written down here. But he also had a brother named Michael, and possibly a brother named James. I only have down here a John, so I don't know where that came from. There was a Michael Connolly who had a son named Michael who was in the Abbey. There it is.
Yeah, I think Mary and I met him there when we were down for a funeral.
Okay. But we don't know anything else about
John
Connolly.
He's not in there now, isn't that?
No, somehow this all came up. We don't know Patrick's parents. Question mark. Patrick, the one from India. But it looked like he had supposedly a brother named Michael. But on this, I have it written down. He had. This one said he was Patrick.
There's a Connolly and Abbey, that one there.
Yeah.
And there's James. No, there wasn't James who went out to Australia. There's
Okay. A James.
He may be a brother, he may be. There's also another. My father had an uncle James who was in Chicago.
Okay.
And they changed their name to Connolly, C-O-N-L-E-Y.
C-O-N-L-E-Y.
L-E-Y.
Okay.
And my father used to write to his daughter way back when.
Okay. What was the daughter's name?
I have it in my book, I think.
That's okay. It's all right.
Anyway,
Interesting. So your father was born 1888.
Right, yeah.
In Ireland.
Mm.
Okay. And his mother's name was Maria. Where in Ireland was he born?
Medidog in Galway.
In Galway.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Maria was open-headed. My father was open-headed. Willis Brown.
Oh, okay. Auburn. Auburn.
Auburn.
Okay.
And she died when he was around 12, 14.
His mother did?
Mm.
When he was 14. Okay.
And he had two younger brothers. John, who lost the farm, and Paddy, who I think he was up in Belfast at one stage, and he went to England.
Okay.
And he married a Boston lady from up there.
I had down her name was Mary. So your father had your Uncle John and your Uncle Patrick.
Yeah.
And did you keep up with Uncle John's, those cousins? There was a lot of them. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
The eldest one was one before most of.
Well, Pat Joe.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then May.
And then Owen.
Only had the farm.
Only had the farm. And where was their farm?
In Ballinsloe. Remember
Ballinsloe. I just couldn't remember where it was. It was in Ballinsloe.
Outside Ballinsloe.
Outside Ballinsloe.
Mm.
And who has that now? Did they have to sell it?
I think it's Kevin's son. Brother.
Really? Okay. Who's Kevin? Oh, this one right here.
Yeah. He died a few years ago.
Okay.
And Stan, he went to England and he said, Monica is a witch, I'm not sure now.
Okay.
Let's find out about her. He died young. I was a nun. I don't know about Margaret.
Okay.
She lived on the north side of Dublin, she was long since dead, she had cancer. I don't know much about her. But May, she was a nun and she married, she came over during the war, at the end of the war.
And she married William Moss.
She married William Moss.
Okay. And you keep in touch with any of them?
No. I was last in touch with the oldest of the Moss boys. He was a policeman in England. I think I'll get in touch with him again.
Okay.
Well, the younger boy went to into the Merchant Navy.
And that's Peter.
Peter.
Mm-hmm.
And he was captaining the big, big ships. These big, oil
Like
tankers
cruise ships or tankers? Okay.
Or what have you.
And that was Peter Moss.
Yeah, I think he ended up between Australia and Japan.
Wow.
Japan. And anyway, he ended up as the harbour master in Sydney, the last I heard of him.
Okay.
He must be long since retired.
And John, Pat Joe's younger brother, John, it looks like he had TB.
I guess so, yeah.
Okay.
That's so, yeah.
All right. Interesting. Huh.
Maybe Burns. And Paddy, he came to London, and they were bombed out during the Blitz.
This is your father's brother.
My father's youngest brother.
Uh-huh.
He worked for brewery chain in the pubs. Never come back to me. And anyway, they in the big Blitz in London about 1941, the place was destroyed, and he moved up to Market Harbour, which is in the Midlands.
In the Midlands?
In the Midlands, yeah.
Okay. That's in England.
Yeah, he comes down once a year to see us.
Okay.
He died in 46.
Do you keep in touch with those cousins?
No, no.
I was just wondering.
No.
Interesting. All right.
Mary was the one who kept in touch with everybody.
Did she?
Mm-hmm.
Now your mother's side. Do you know any updates on your mom's side? Your mother's which was Nellie, and all of like Richard and John and Gillian and Gerald, those cousins?
No, not such with them. John died a few years ago. He had got mouth cancer.
Okay.
And
I remember Richard.
Richard, I think is still a close neighbour of Judy.
Okay, so she probably.
I think she knows what's going on, but she doesn't see much of him.
Okay.
And Gerald, I think, last I heard he was up in Winchmore Hill, north of Palmer's Green.
Okay.
With his partner. And Gillian, I think, was up somewhere in the North Country with a huge family.
Okay. Well, good.
I think the husband separated.
Oh, she separated with her husband?
He was a singer. Or hoped to be a singer, who never got off.
All right. So going back to your father, so his father, you're not sure about the family in India, as far as Patrick Connolly.
No.
Questions of, and what years was he in India, you think?
Off the top of my head, around 58 or 59.
Okay.
The story was that he had his eye, I probably told you this one before, he had his eye on a fowling piece he'd seen, which was for sale. And the father refused to give him the money. So he knew the money was buried under the mattress.
Oh.
So supposedly he took the money and bought the fowling piece and hid the fowling piece, but of course talked about it. And word got back to the father and there was one mighty row.
What's a filing piece?
For shooting flowers, birds.
Oh, okay.
Birds.
Foul. Okay.
And anyway, the grandfather took off. And what age he was, I don't know. But he then turns up in Sheffield, in England, and joins up the army. Yeah.
Okay.
So whether he had gone there looking for work, or maybe he had worked there, and like so many of them decided they didn't want to work in the factory before they opened their life.
Okay.
And joined this new regiment that had formed.
And how old would he have been, approximately?
I think about 18.
Okay.
18 or 19.
And then soon after that went to India?
Yeah, they were newly formed. They were Sheffield, they had a brand new barracks there, which was probably quite attractive, with state-of-the-art accommodation and everything. Mm-hmm. And because Sheffield was a centre of radicalism, mm-hmm. And it also, from the governor's point of view, was a good centre to have a new barracks. We had rail connections and road connections and everything from there. A big steel town. And the regiment was moved down there eventually to a place called Aldershot outside London, where there was another brand new barracks. And Aldershot was a place that Queen Victoria was very interested in, and her husband, because it was first to London, and the Guards depot was there, and they were interested in how the army was looked after. After the Crimean War, when things hadn't gone so well, and they wanted a good training ground, which they had one in Aldershot. So they built the prime barracks, and it was in a horseshoe shape, and the parade ground in between was covered over completely with a glass roof. And so the whole regiment could parade outside.
And this was in the 1850s?
1850s, yeah.
Wow.
And without getting wet. But it was too big for one regiment. And they had another regiment there called the Tower Hamlets Militia, I think they were. There was some crowd from London. And Christmas came up, and there was a custom at Christmas for all the officers to take themselves off, leave everybody else to it, have a nice time, without any supervision. And so they had a great party, the two regiments. And then things started getting heated, and they started disputing who had the best party, which regiment. And things got rather heated and more, and people started grabbing broomsticks and crowbars and things to beat each other over the head with. And eventually, some of my father's regiment went off and got their rifles and started firing across at the other crowd in their barracks. And according to the report in one of the American papers, 3 or 4 people got killed.
Really?
In fact, only one got killed. But there was a row and a big inquiry. And I can't see that anybody was punished. Nobody would own up. There was nobody to say, you know. And anyway, the regiment was shipped off in disgrace to Mauritius.
Okay.
But to get there, they were shipped first to Cork.
Okay.
And then they had to wait there there was a guy in Boston, he was a Scot, who had come by way of Canada. He built himself up a big shipbuilding business there. And he was building these very fast schooners with four masts and metal bodies. And this particular one was one of the fastest at the time. It would take around 800 passengers, but they packed over 1,000 in for soldiers. And anyway, they got on. The government hired a schooner and brought it to Cork and got the regiment on it and shipped it down to Mauritius. So that's how they got there.
That's how they got there. Glad they got there.
Yeah. But in those days, to get what they would do with these ships, they wouldn't raise sail in the harbour. They'd be towed out by a tug, a steam tug, along the south coast, so they got into the trade winds in the Atlantic, and then they'd be let loose.
Okay.
And they go on to sailing down the South American coast.
It's a long way.
Long way.
That's a long way.
It took weeks.
Then how did he make it to India?
Well, they went down the south. They went down the South American coast, and then cut across to South Africa, up to Cape Town for refueling or food. But the soldiers weren't allowed off. And then they were taken from there to Mauritius. And there were about 2 years, during which time about half of them ended up in the hospital, malaria, whatever else. And then they were taken from there to Burma. And they were there for 3 or 4 years. And they had an incident there where some of them were taken to some islands to rescue some people who were being captured by headhunters. And eventually they were taken to the east coast of India and taken by train inland And then when they got to the railhead, they had to get off and march into a place called, not Hyderabad, Guntrabad. It was a military cantonment which was built next to Hyderabad to control the area. And in the march up, I forget how many people died anyway, but some children died. They had camp followers, you know. And so fairly hard going. So he was there then, and he was moved a couple of times. And then about 1870, his regiment was sent back to England. Mm-hmm. And another one came out. And the custom then was anybody who wanted to stay on in India would apply to stay. So he apparently applied.
Okay.
And transferred to the other regiment. So he was there, and then he moved around a bit more in India. And that he'd done his time, 18 years. I came out with a handshake on the pension. But his original regiment went back to England, and then they were shipped to South Africa. And they, if you've ever come across a film called Zulu.
Zulu. I've never seen it.
Never seen it. If you ever watched that, that's the regiment that he was in. And there was a small section of the regiment actually was shown in that film, but the main part of the regiment was massacred by the Zulus.
Really?
The day before, yeah.
Oh my, I'll have to watch
that. He was lucky.
Wow.
He got out at the right time.
Wow. So then he eventually comes back. Comes back.
And he marries this widow woman. And if I have the right woman, and I think it was an arranged marriage, must be.
Okay.
But otherwise he wouldn't have got the land.
Oh, all right. And where was the land?
In this township of Ballylug.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
And I need to know more about it because his own family came from a different part of the parish. And but he may have been related to some people in the township. I haven't figured that one. Some of these people you see on your sheet there may be in the township.
Okay. So then he marries Maria.
He married Maria. And had 3 sons, and then she died. When the youngest boy was around 8, I guess.
Okay.
So whether she died in childbirth or just died of TB or whatever was
it looks like he was born in 1892, so she would have died by around 1900.
She died about, if my father was 14,
okay.
She died about 1902.
Okay. Alrighty. And then I know we've talked about how Owen met your mother.
Mm.
He spied her at she was younger and on the farm, right? In the same area.
In the same parish, yeah.
In the same parish. All right. Let me ask you a couple questions about my mom, just while I'm thinking about it. So she was born in 1929.
29.
At home in London. And then you came along 5 years later.
5 years later.
And then the war broke out when you were like
1939.
And you were like 4? No.
No, I was being 5.
You were 5. And then the 2 of you were shipped off together.
Yeah, Monica.
And with Monica also. So I'm just getting clear in my mind. You ended up coming back home soon after that.
Yeah, I did last day. We went up there around September.
Yeah.
Or whenever the evacuation was. When did the war start? Was it September? I can't remember. I have to nail these things down. And I was shipped back in December.
Okay.
But they all stayed on.
Why did they ship you back?
Because they couldn't handle small boys. There were only 6 of us.
Okay. So the boys the young ones got sent back home.
The little boys didn't come.
Because they sent all the children away because of the bombing, right? But you just...
We were expendable.
You were expendable, obviously. Okay. And then Mum stayed at her school. which was...
She stayed up there, yeah.
What was the name of the convent?
Acton Burnham.
Acton Burnham. She stayed there until...
Sion. Yeah, the sisters of Sion, I think they call themselves.
Sinai?
Sion.
Sion.
Sion, like Mount Sion. And,
oh, Z-I-O-N.
S-I-O-N, yeah.
S-I-O-N, okay.
Z-I-O-N.
Okay. And she stayed there until she finished with school at age 18?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Okay. And then she came back to Palmer's Green?
Palmer's Green, she did a year in the convent or part of a year in the convent in Wood Green.
Okay. To get her Latin? Or was that
try to get her Latin, yeah. So whether she got her, I don't know. Can't you?
Okay.
And then she went, I know she was working in this tech over in, maybe it was Edmonton.
For a year in a lab, you said?
In a lab, I think it was,
okay.
yeah. Whether it was an assistant or whether she was studying, I don't know. Maybe she's doing both.
And why was she working in a lab, do you think? Getting ready for school?
Maybe she was, maybe was paying for a course.
Yeah, okay. Something.
I don't know.
All right. And then she went to...
Then she went to Dublin.
To Trinity.
Trinity. No, UCD.
UCD, okay.
University College.
Of Dublin. And got her undergrad and then did her medicine also at UCD.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she was living with Mary.
All right. The whole time, right? How many years do you think that was?
What's the course, about 8 years, isn't it?
I'm sure it was. Okay. And then right from there, that's when she moved to America.
Yeah.
Heard about, I remember her telling me it was she'd heard about a program where America was advertising to have young doctors come over and they'd pay their way and give them a green card to do their residency in America since they were short of doctors.
And she went to Baltimore?
And she went to Baltimore. I don't know what year it was. I'd say it had to have been 57 or 56 or something like that. But, because I know they got married in 59. I think they met in 58.
They were both in Baltimore.
And I think Dad convinced her to do anesthesia. And they got married and then immediately moved down to Texas. Slowly but surely. I think he went ahead of her and a month later she drove down, something like that. Okay. That helps me remember, because I couldn't remember all of that, and it's too late to ask her now.
Yeah, and he joined the partnership down there.
He did, and got there before her. I don't know how many months before her. But she always talked about driving down with the cats, or something like that. Yeah. And they got married in New York.
Yeah.
And without anybody there except Ellen.
Ellen.
And didn't you both get married in?
No.
You got married back here? In Ireland?
Oh, I got married over there, yeah.
Yeah, you got married in New York also. That's what I thought. Okay. Alrighty. Let's see, what else to talk about? Now, you know what? Look what I have written down here. Paul's children: Sive, Jonty, Bobby, Maggie, and Fiacra. I must have Nellie and
Nellie May, wasn't it?
Nellie May, and yeah.
I remember she used to talk about Maggie and Nellie May.
Now, Marion Dermot, what was his job exactly?
He was, when I first have heard the name, he was in partnership with his uncle. The uncle was in the wool business for England, and they fell out over something. And Dermot then got himself a job in Dublin as an advisor. What do they call it? Oh, we will remember. CTT, I think. It was a government advisory body for industry. I think his specialty was woolen goods and things, and textiles.
Okay.
No. And he worked there for a few years. Okay, she went out to Malaya, Kuala Lumpur, and then he went to Iran.
And that was all working for...
Iran was working for...
I thought he was something to do with the embassy, no?
No,
I didn't know. I didn't
nothing I
know.
ever heard.
Okay.
He's writing all these things down at the time.
That's okay. I was just wondering what his job
Yeah,
actually was.
but he had a sister, Doreen, and she was married. She was married to a lad who specialised in radio communications for embassies. So they lived overseas a lot, and he'd be in charge of the wireless communications. And they had one daughter.
So this would have been Mary's niece,
Mary's niece.
Paul's cousin.
Paul's cousin, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they also lived out of the country, like you said, in the same area?
When she was young, they would have. When I last saw her back in 63, 62, 63. Well, she wasn't married at that stage. She married some Polish guy. I think he was a pilot, and he gave up being a pilot. He went into business. And last I heard, they're separated. I don't know.
Okay. All right, let's get back to you then. Let's not worry about all this more as what it was like to grow up in London in the war. And you, what school did you go to?
When we were in Bayswater, I went to the common school.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went to Palmer's Green. I went to the common school there on near Bowes Road, and I was probably there about a year or two. And I went from there to a school called Miss Harper's. And Miss Harper was a Protestant lady who started a school back about 1930 in Richmore Hill, very good school. And built it up. It was still very small. And their business had been, buildings had been taken over during the war by the civil defence. So she'd been evacuated to Palmer's Green to another school there, so I started with her there for about a term. And we moved up to Richmore Hill. And I was there until 45.
Okay.
And it was nice. It was a small school, about 20 people, I guess.
Really? And you were like 10 or 11 years old
All
then?
lots of boys, yes, between 9
All
and 10,
boys.
8, 9, 10.
And were you basically raised without any sisters around?
Yes.
As an only child,
I have
basically?
yes, no
Okay.
sisters.
And did my mom ever come back and visit? Did the girls, Monica or Christina, come back to
I
visit?
didn't recall during the war.
They were-
I do recall when we were in Bayswater, before we moved from there, going 2 or 3 times with my mother to Pedmore Station to wait for the train up from, maybe it was Mary coming up from, of course she was evacuated too, down to Bristol
Okay.
with King's College to escape the bombing, where they were heavily bombed back down there anyway. And it may have been her that was coming up. I don't think it was the girls from the ways, you know.
Okay. So every time I heard about my mom pulling your curls, that was really before the war started. When you were...
When I had curls, I was very small.
You were little.
It was worse than that.
Was it? Oh, poor mom. She's not here to defend herself
I
at
rather
all.
laugh after she had passed on. Far worse.
Oh no. Poor mom. Now when did you meet because I know my parents, I mean, they were all over in America, so when did you first meet my father?
In '63, when I came to America from Hong Kong, and then we drove across, myself and this other girl, from San Francisco, and we parted at Austin. Well, then she went off to meet some boyfriend she had in Texas.
In Texas.
And I continued the bus to Houston.
Okay.
And yeah, my mum picked me up,
Okay.
and that's when I met your father.
Met my father. And she was pregnant at the time.
She was very pregnant at the time, and they were living in some little house somewhere.
Okay.
Not,
With the 2 cats.
I remember one cat.
Or 1 cat.
Yeah.
That was an
There
indoor
could have been
cat.
2. There could have been 2 for I know. But that was the first time I met your father.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, when did you go to college?
I went in 53.
In 53. To, where'd you go?
London, University College London,
Okay.
which is just a bus and a train ride down from Palmer's Green.
Mm-hmm. And you got an accounting degree, or what was it?
No, I did classics, Latin and Greek.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what made you get into accounting?
People didn't do accounting
Oh,
degrees
they
in
didn't
those
do
days,
accounting.
no.
Okay.
Not in England anyway. I think they did here.
And then what got you into accounting?
Well, after I did my national service, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I had thought of becoming going into the prison service.
Really?
Yeah. And I went to the guidance counselor in the college, and he asked me the same question. I said, "Oh," he said, "No. He said, you're far too." I forget the word he used, but not nice, but I wouldn't be rough enough anyway.
Okay.
And he thought, he said, "No, what you should do is become an accountant. You can do anything after that."
Okay.
And it wasn't a good move. It was a bread ticket.
To make money.
Yeah, you had a living. But it was a calling.
The accounting or the...
Accounting.
Okay. That's good. I understand.
Well, the first 20 years I did a lot of auditing. I'll say, well, until 1958 until 1960, 1976, 18 years I was doing auditing. I think it's a mug's job.
Not much fun, I'm sure. A mug job? Is that what
job. Actually, the lower end certainly is. You see things signed off on, they shouldn't be signed off on. Corners cut, keep buying cars and they're happy.
I understand. They still do that today, don't they? That's what I hear.
They do.
They do. All right. Well, I will stop now because I know I've worn you out. But thank you. There's all sorts of things written in here. My word. I'm gonna have to go home and start working on this again.
What I have to do is see if I can identify the townlands all the people lived in, whether they're all in the same parish. They probably were. It's a small world.
Mm-hmm. And Ballinasloe was that in, which county was that in?
Galway.
In Galway.
Mm-hmm.
I always think it was Cork, but it wasn't Cork.
No,
it was Galway.
Galway.
I've always had it wrong. All right. Well, that helps. Next time I come, I'll have to make my way out that way also. Say the Ballinasloe.
Think of more questions.
No, I can't think of anything else right now. I always remember Mary would take us out to see Pat Joe and Oni. I loved their farm. And I always remember then we'd go see Auntie May. And she had some little ring of like, she called it a fairy ring.
Outside the house, yeah.
Outside her house.
Yeah.
What is that?
That was the foundation of an old enclosure, going back about 800 or 1,000 years.
Oh, so there was probably somebody
they
built
keep
something
cattle
there.
there. Some of them go back much further. I'd say that's what that one was.
Okay.
It wasn't a big one.
Because as a child, I always thought it was a fairy ring.
Fairy ring, yeah.
That's what she would tell me.
Yeah.
Fairies had made this. Like, but it was a green, very green spot, nothing growing there except grass, and then a perfect round mound all the way around. It wasn't very tall, but it was tall enough that you could find it. So.
Yeah, old foundation.
Must have been. Now that I've gone to the Blasket.
That was a toilet.
Did May have a toilet?
That was it.
Oh, that was the toilet. Oh, don't tell me that. I remember going to visit her, and she was in a very rustic house. I remember it was I call it rustic.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not sure there was plumbing or
No,
electricity or anything.
No. When I was in
And
there,
she lived by herself her whole life, and she was probably 90.
She had an oil lamp.
She did?
When I last time I saw her in the house.
But she lived into her 90s, didn't she?
Yeah.
All by herself.
Until she got a little bit unstable, and they got her off to the convent.
Did they? Because her sister was Nora,
Nora.
her younger sister.
And I see in there one of those lists that there was a younger sister, younger than Nora. I'd never heard of.
Have to look it up.
Yeah.
See where that came from. A lot of this was Mary, I think, had filled in on quite a bit of this. I just wrote down whatever she told me when I was like 18 or 20. So maybe younger. I might have been 16 or 18.
Well, it's an amazingly small world there, because where Judy lives, she lives in a place called the Cheddar Gap, which is like a small canyon with a river runs through. And there are caves there, very old caves, and they found bones dating back to 4,000 years BC, I think.
This is in England?
In England, yeah. They had the bright idea of trying to get DNA out of them, which they did. And then they inquired around to see if people would come forward, volunteer with their DNA. They wanted to see if there was any connection between this guy and any of the people living there. And they found one school teacher who was directly connected all the way back all these thousands of years.
My heavens.
Yeah. And he was living a few miles away.
My heavens. That would be...
People didn't move. No. Or if they did, they didn't come back.
Interesting. In the Blasket Center, that most of the farmers down in the Dingle never went further than 20 miles away from their farm their whole lives. And they would depend on, I think they said the Tinkers or whatever, to give them the newest information about what was going on when they came by trying to sell their things. But, oh my, spend your whole life never going further than your farm. But that happened, it sounds like, for many years.
Well, when I was in New York, I wanted to do something typically American. So I did a Dale Carnegie course.
Oh, did you? Yes. What did you study?
Public speaking.
Oh my.
But in the group there was this girl from New Jersey, and the other Americans in the group thought she was very pathetic. She came from a farming family, and the parents had never been to New York. They just across the Hudson, you know. And they thought she was a real yokel. Very pathetic letter.
I think that's kind of gone away, that way of life.